At WFMU, you're on the air.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, hi.
Hi,
My goodness, is this Chris Elliott?
this is Chris. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for calling. This is very exciting.
I'm sorry I'm not there in person.
I'm sorry you're not here in person too, but I might not be able to handle you here in person. I'd be covered in a sheet of sweat.
What am I missing by not being there?
Well, we're in this room that's kind of, we call it, or I call it the submarine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the alternate studio. And the station's building is laid out so that every 10 feet, the temperature changes about 20 degrees.
Okay.
So either it'll be really cold in one spot or you'll be sweating.
Right.
You're not missing anything.
I think I made the right decision.
You are home in your manse.
That's right, in my McMansion.
In your McMansion. Oh, what if... Well, first of all, let me say Chris Elliott, star of Eagleheart, which is on Adult Swim, Thursday nights at midnight. It is a pleasure to have you on the show, and an honor.
Oh, that's really nice, Tom. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on your show, and thank you for, all the kind words you've said about me in the past and all that. I appreciate it.
I'm going to say more right now.
All right, I can use a lot of that. So
First of all, don't take this the wrong way.
All right.
You're a genius.
How would I take that the wrong way?
I don't know.
All right.
It is you are a hero of mine.
Go on.
Okay. All the way from watching you when I was a little kid on late night.
How old are you?
56. No. I am
You're my demographics.
No, I have I just got a 4 on my age recently. So it's your people. Your people, all like dudes.
Well,
right?
That's all really nice. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
That really makes me feel good. I don't hear it enough.
Well, you should hear it you should hear it all the live long day. You should hear it.
All right.
Because
I'll call every day then.
Please. Oh, will you actually? Will that kind of get, after like a few days, will I get kind of like, okay, yeah. Will it be like I'm kind of like, yes, I told you you're a genius.
Yeah. No, you have to just think of different things to call me, though. I can't be called a genius every day.
All right.
So Tom, let's talk about you. How long have you been doing this show?
I've been doing the show about 10 years now. We had
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
10 years.
That is great. That's really cool.
You know that anything you say sounds like you're humiliating me? You know that, right?
No, I'm very impressed. I've never done anything for 10 years. That's amazing. That's really great.
Well, how long were you on late night?
I guess I wrote on there for about 7 or 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then I never really totally left. I went and I did Get a Life, and then I came back, and I actually still had an office there, and I sort of hung out and did things on the show, and I never really totally left, and I still don't kind of feel like I've left.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a safety net for me that is always there, I think.
Sure. So it's one of those things like you were on like the show Love Sydney was never actually canceled, apparently. I think.
Right.
It's like they never officially pulled the plug on it, even though Tony Randall's been dead 9 years now. It's like.
Yeah. Well, I think he had passed away before it started too. No, yeah, that's how I sort of feel there, and I don't know. They do sort of seem to, leave the door open for me to pop back in every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes I feel strange doing it. Sometimes I feel like I'm too old to be doing these silly things at this point, and that I've done it so many times before. But then I go and I do it, and I have a lot of fun, and it feels right, so I still do it.
Good. You should. And you should not feel anything because everybody wants you to do that. I can only tell you when I see you doing what you do, when you did the thing, even on Conan a couple weeks ago, when you were on there.
Don't you think it reaches a point where I'm too old to be doing that stuff where,
No.
Well, what if I got like an eye job?
See, I think
and was doing it.
You're almost at the point though where anything you would do to it would bring out like another layer of the onion, where it'd be like, and yeah, he's doing the thing he was doing before, but you got to see him now. He got this eye job, and it's horrible, and it's almost twice as funny now somehow.
So you don't think that would screw me up at all? Like, that's my biggest fear is, like, you know, like, remember when the honeymooners, when, you know, reunited, you know, after 20 years, and, you know, it was just eye job city, and
yeah,
I mean, was off and all that. That's my worry, is that I'm turning into that.
Wow.
Thing.
Like when...
but maybe it's good, like you're saying. Maybe that's my thing. Maybe I should do that.
But, you know, the thing about that, though, is it's like when, like, they did the Grumpy Old Men franchise, Jack Lemmon.
Right.
And, like, Walter Matthau clearly was not doing anything to kind of spruce up his appearance at that point. He was just... Whatever was happening to him was happening. But, like, Jack Lemmon was, like... getting work done on his face.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what does Jack Lemmon think is going to happen with that? Like the idea,
I don't know. I mean, his eyes just started getting bigger and bigger and wider and wider, and like skin peels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're right, though. I think that should be my new thing. I think I should just start like doing a lot of plastic surgery.
Just like full on, like all like. Like any operation you can get, you just do it, and then you like ask what they did to you later.
Yeah, exactly. I like this idea. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start right away.
You could leave, and it may be just you could also get it as like some sort of reality show to pay for it, maybe.
I guess I should also like do like liposuction and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, the whole thing. Just anything. They shatter your jaw. Just whatever they do. Kind of slide your forehead.
What would Dave Letterman do if I just showed up on that show just like looking like the Catwoman after?
And acting like nothing was different.
What could he possibly say?
Yeah. That would be absolutely. You know what? You do whatever you want to do. Everything you do, you can't. I'm gonna say you can't do wrong with this stuff. You can't.
I don't know.
Do you realize how influential you are to a whole generation of
that's nice.
Of all dudes too. It's all dudes.
That's really nice, but you know, it's not true. I mean, I think that there's the stuff I was doing early on was because there weren't a lot of outlets for that kind of stuff, and so. When I was doing something weird on late night, there wasn't anybody really else out there doing that, And I'm, nowadays with, the internet, I'm just amazed at it takes me like a week to think of, I should do something about that story or that guy or something. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go online just to make sure it hasn't been done yet. And of course, 10,000 people have done really good parodies of something or really slick, impersonations of something. And that just was not around. So if it had been, I think I would have been lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, well, it was a weird kind of, niche you were filling there because you were not doing stand-up.
Right.
And you were not a part of a troupe.
No.
You kind of were you.
Yeah, I was. And the thing was that Dave, he started that because he started calling me by my name on the show. And that started this thing where the persona that I was developing was this Chris Elliott persona. Mm-hmm. That was the character. And so I was like ahead of the game in terms of people sort of knowing name recognition and knowing who I was because he was sort of announcing me every week. Or when you start on Saturday Night Live, you have to kind of get some bits on and get people to notice you and say, who's that guy? And then, your name starts to become familiar to them. But Dave was giving me my own little spotlight every week, so.
Yeah, so you were able to.
It was this, thing where I just, was this kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
And,
No, where Chris Elliott, I will say, is on with us. He of Eagleheart, of fame. I'm gonna say fame, which is on Adult Swim on Thursday nights at midnight. And where did the character? How did the character of Chris Elliott kind of form? Like where was that coming from?
Well, I don't know. I think I thought for a while that it just was stuff that I was doing in high school that I started doing around the office at late night. I know that Dave, he liked it when I acted kind of nuts around the office, and he sort of, I think, found a way of being able to, bring that onto the show. I can't, I think part of it also, I'm somewhat of a nervous performer. I get nervous and I get uptight, and I think early on, I don't know. I think I just thought, okay, less is more or something, and if I just hold stuff in and look kind of more intense, I don't have to do so much, and it was funny, and it started to be interpreted that I was a nut who, had all this kind of seething anger towards Dave underneath the surface, and so we I guess played on that.
Yeah, because there's the some of the elements are the person who's mad at the authority figure, like feeling like kind of poking the king with the with the stick.
But the thing with me was that I was doing was playing all these sort of attitudes, like playing this sort of stupid cocky kind of guy who then suddenly just turns on you, and backstabs you right away, and thinks he's better than you, and the idea of a real cocky idiot was sort of really fun for me.
Yes,
and I think that's pretty much the way I am in real life anyway. So.
There is nothing funnier than the person who is kind of burning clout that they do not have.
Yeah.
Now.
And Dave was amused by that, but it was sort of that's the way I kind of dealt with him up in the office as well as on the show. And I think to a lot of other writers, dismay and frustration because I spent a lot of time not writing and a lot of time just walking around the office with my shirt off. That amused Dave.
Yeah. When was it clear that it's wow, I have carved this thing out that is it's kind of taking on its own role on the show and its own energy where people are now waiting to see your thing?
Well, the weird thing was when people would call me to be in movies and stuff, or magazines would want me to do an article on me, and I think that's when we all just thought, this is bizarre. I was a practical joke that people are now starting to take seriously, and I have sort of always kind of felt that, I guess, that just it was a joke. It was I'm not good. That's what the joke was, and I don't know, somewhere along the line here in 20 years of doing this, I've had to sort of, actually turn it into an act.
Yeah.
But I think it was when people just started noticing, and Dave, early on, anybody with that show in those early days of late night, when it became a hit, it's very much like your show. People would, anything associated with it, people liked. You could reel Dave's desk down the street, and there was a group of people that would recognize it.
Yeah.
And so I never took being recognized seriously, but it was more when other job offers started coming.
Yeah, because I have this guy who screens calls for me. Yeah. He's a guy. First of all, I could hear him. He picked up the phone. He's big fan, which
right. That's exactly what he sounded like too.
I apologize for that. His name's Mike.
No, I was just saying, oh God, don't let this be Tom. I can't talk to a guy like this.
Because he's kind of carved this thing out. He started off just screening calls for it. Now he's hanging out with the listeners. he's like telling people where he's going to be on like Facebook, like meet me at this park.
Right.
Like it just all this stuff, and it's getting like
he's going to have your show.
Yeah, it's getting to this point. Yeah, it's getting to this point where when I'm not here, I'll let him fill in. It's like the old Tonight Show here, where Mike fills in, except instead it would be like instead of like Johnny Carson would get Burt Reynolds to fill in for him or something. It'd be like if he just handed the thing over to like the guy who was sweeping the stage to fill in. That's kind of what it's become here now. And if then you've started to realize slowly that the guy who sweeps the stage has severe mental problems.
Now, he can hear you, obviously. He's screening calls, but also listening to you, correct?
Yes, he
hear
is.
You talking. And he has no problem with you talking.
No, afterwards he will thank me for this.
Right. No, I was the same way. Anything, even if it was an insult on the air, that's fine. Just talk about me, please. Get my name out there.
Now, you were on late night for 7 years, 8 years, and then you start to see like the kind of the awareness grow, and where in that did Daddy's Boy fit into the equation?
Like, I think that was just before I left. I did that book with my dad, and it was I guess, but again, it was like sort of making fun of the fact that I'm going to write a book, and that was what we chose to do, and which was, obviously a parody of Mommy Dearest, but for legal reasons, my dad got every other chapter to rebut what I was saying. And the fact that I actually had a very normal, fun childhood, and then just had to make up a whole lot of crap to fill the book, and it actually, I'm still happy with that book. I think it's sort of funny.
Yeah, that's a book that friends we will all like. If anybody sees a copy of Daddy's Boy, you just buy it and you get it to somebody who doesn't have a copy yet.
Well, I've got a room full of them here, so I'll send you a couple of crates.
You send me a skid.
Yeah.
Because it's for people who don't exactly. It's like Mommy Dearest, and it's your father, who is Bob Elliott, who from Bob and Ray, also another, which we can talk about in a minute. But he's not even interested in his participation in the book, like.
No, and that is exactly how we wrote the book. It's like I was in New York writing it, and then he was in his house up in Maine, and he didn't. I'm not sure he totally understood the concept initially. I said, I'm going to write a lot of crazy stuff, make up stuff about what it was like to grow up with you, and then I want you to rebut the chapters in any way you want. And he was just, all right, okay. And I waited and got his first chapter. But I realized he had just decided not to deal with anything I had actually written in my chapters, and just write little essays of his own from in Maine. Yeah. But it was a lot easier that way, actually.
Yeah. Now,
doing what I was trying to do.
With your dad being half of Bob and Ray, what were you seeing as a kid with being a part, with your, look, my father.
Well, I definitely knew he was funny. He was funny around the house, and we would walk down the street, and people would come up to him, and tell him how funny he is and all that. So I knew he had, this career. It was odd because he was not, he's a very shy person, and he's not flashy in any way, and Ray wasn't either, and they both wore suits and carried briefcases to work.
Yeah.
and they were just so unassuming. They were not, what you would picture comedians being, and so I never thought of him as a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Thought of him as this funny guy who happened to be on the Tonight Show every now and then and had a radio show.
Yeah, but the kind of humor was, because they were doing something that was so unique compared to even what other people were doing on the radio. The pacing was different.
Right.
The concepts were so weird, and just they had long running things like the soap operas, and And they just
they had that, but they also, the thing about them was that they, were just trying to make each other, crack up. The funniest thing to them would be if the other person could not go on because they were laughing too hard. It was just like being in school, that's trying to make your buddy laugh. That's how they got together in the first place. Was Ray used to read the news. My dad had was actually a DJ in Boston, and Ray would come in and read the news, and my dad would try to make him laugh while he was reading the news. And in the course of that, they started bantering back and forth, and then developed little bits, and then suddenly the managers were saying, well, let's put them together in a show.
Yeah.
But they were doing really, it's sort of like their humor is like kind of, I guess if you go to Disneyland, they're, I guess you would consider them the Small World ride, compared to, Space Mountain or something like that. But, I always loved the Small World ride too, so.
Yeah, gotta have you gotta have the cool down ride.
Right, exactly, where you go when it's too hot and cool off.
Yeah.
It was never, I do think that their stuff was more edgy and biting than some people give them credit for or think of them as when they think about them now. I think that, and I think that's certainly where I got some of my,
Well, I think it also
nasty side of my stuff.
Yes.
But the thing about them was they were so sweet that it went by without you realizing what they were actually doing.
Now, do you feel that maybe in a weird way you were, your dad was not jumping around with his shirt off at work. He's wearing a suit. Is that kind of you finding your way to claim it as you're just not your father's son?
I definitely wanted to do something different, than him. But I remember like the first time I had any lines on late night, and I'm so sick of talking about myself. Let's talk about you after this. But I remember, like I said, I had one line, and I got off, and one of the segment producer said, "Well, you got your dad's timing," and I realized, yeah, I guess I do. I see, even though I'm completely different, I do sort of have his rhythm and what, and it was funny when we were doing Get a Life because it just felt right as soon as we started working together. There was no. It wasn't like when you have to work with an actor and sort of figure out your timing and all that kind of stuff. It was right there, and we had never worked together before. So.
Yeah, and look, you don't want to talk about yourself. I really don't like talking about myself that much.
Well, let's talk about Jason Walliner.
Let's talk about Jason Walliner, who is the he's a what would you call him on the show Eagleheart, which is on Thursday nights at midnight on Adult Swim.
He is the show rooster on Eagleheart.
The show rooster.
I will call him. Yeah, he is the man on that show.
Because you have Michael and Andrew are the creators of the show.
They are Andrew Weinberg and Michael Coman.
Michael, sorry.
They along with Jason, created this thing, and they're all brilliant. They all did a great job. Jason is a great director. I mean, he's amazing, and he's pretty responsible for why the show looks so cool.
Yeah,
that I think.
I mean, I just watched the episode that's going to be on this Thursday,
and that actually, now that you bring that up, is my favorite episode.
Oh my God, it's so
on this Thursday.
It's so good. It's.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
good to hear.
Yeah, and I think it's a good. If anybody who hasn't gotten on board the show yet, I think it's it's kind of like it's a place that somebody could get on board also and not feel like they're missing out on anything.
It's what I'd like to show. I mean, I think all the episodes are really great. I think this one is is sort of what I would like the show to sort of continue to be like.
Sure,
we get picked up. But it's interesting because I'm not, I don't write on the show particularly. I, put in a couple of blips here and there and help out here and there. It's all these guys, and it's cool to sort of like they have my voice down, and they were big Get a Life fans, and so it's really easy for me just to At first, it was sort of hard to, I had to kind of like learn to trust these guys because I didn't know them, and they're also 20 years old. But
but I mean, Jason is like he's like career showbiz.
No, he's been
he's like a 70-year-old man in showbiz years.
No, he was a children's entertainer to begin with, and a child entertainer.
Yes. Well, now he entertains everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
He makes everyone smile. But
and how do you guys know each other?
Oh, just from being kind of around the same comedy
right.
garbage.
Right.
That everybody else is around. The kind of flotsam that just finds itself clinging to each other. Then suddenly you're like, maybe we should be friends.
Everybody knows everybody now. That's a different thing too. It's like my daughter, knows everybody. Both my daughters do, and I guess I'm so antisocial to begin with, but it wasn't like that back when I was starting out. There wasn't UCB and all these places that, where people sort of get together afterwards and hang out and all that. It was just kind of like Catch a Rising Star and the comic strip, and those were all
like you're supposed to go sit around a table, listen to Robert Klein and Kip Adada tell stories.
Those guys were, but they were all real competitive and everything. So it's a totally different world company-wise now.
Please do not mistake this for a second. These people are all equally as competitive as they were then.
I know, but I totally agree. They just they pretend that they're not.
Yeah,
right?
They just put a different face on it now.
Such crap.
Exactly.
That is such crap. I can see right through that crap too.
Yeah. It's But have you ever gone to places like the UCB Theater or any of that stuff? Have you checked it out?
I've gone down. I've seen, Abby did it for a couple of years in New York and out in L.A. and so I would go to shows and watch her, and I've been to shows since, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's terrific, and one of our, the people that the cast, of Eagleheart, I think all of them have worked at UCB.
Sure, like
Brett Elman and Maria Thayer, and I don't know if Michael Gladys has, but
yeah. Well, do you know what Jason Walner's nickname is by any chance? Is
it McJ?
It's not McJ. It's J Loco actually.
Oh, J Loco.
Yes, because you know about this Four Loco thing.
Right. Yeah, I do know a little bit about that.
Yeah, which the Four Loco is this stuff that it's basically we had a Four Loco Christmas party on the air a few months ago. Jason got it in the air because Jason told me I drank this stuff and then I found myself I climbed a palm tree.
Right.
That's what he told me, and it's like I think I want to try that stuff, and I'm not a drinker.
Right.
And then he had some Four Loco party at his house where his house got trashed.
Right.
And so then I got some and had it on the air, and I blacked out for the final hour of the show. And do you know John Hodgman? You know John Hodgman?
No.
You know the PC from the Mac PC commercials?
Oh, yeah.
He's on the Daily Show, and
yeah.
He was up here drinking it, and yeah. It was so much fun, and then suddenly a light switch gets thrown, and then all of a sudden you pass out or black out.
Right.
But Jason now is kind of like the
spokesman.
He's like the LA spokes. He's kind of like, it's like Boogie Nights when like the Alfred Molina's house when they all came by. Like Jason's kind of living that life now, except instead of.
Have you ever been to his house out there?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it is a lot like that house.
Yes, it's a lot like that, except it's instead of Coke, it's Four Loco.
Right.
Yeah, so he. But I'm glad. Look, when he was telling me that he was going to work with you, I could not believe it. It sounded like a dream come true for him.
Well, I almost didn't. I do it just because I thought and I don't think I was his idea or their idea. I think I was Adult Swim's idea for this. Because they were, this was produced by Conan's company, and it was initially, sort of a Walker Texas Ranger parody with like a sort of show within a show kind of Larry Sanders concept, and I don't know, I sort of thought they should actually get a real old guy to play the part, and I realized, well, no, I'm 50. I guess I'm like in the range that you're talking about here. So, but as soon as I met them, Andrew, Michael, and Jason, I knew, oh yeah, no, I want to work with these guys.
Yeah, and it's the show's really great, and I'm glad you're all paired up.
Oh, thanks, Tom. It's the first time, and I've said this before, but it's true, that I felt like, oh, this is, because I've done other pilots and I've done roles in other people's shows, and I've never felt like, oh, this is right for me, like Get a Life was, and this is the closest thing really to Get a Life that I've ever done. So,
yeah. Now when in the Get a Life, what was the conceit behind Get a Life? How did you sell that? Did you sell it as like the show about the next door neighbor?
No, I didn't say that to them because that would have scared them. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was like, the concept was to do a show that was like, like a guy who would be on Newhart or something, and then follow him home, like a weird character who would pop in and then see his life. But Fox didn't want, Fox was looking for like a family show, a real show, and I remember sitting in pitches and just describing the show as like, well, it's going to be kind of like, I'm a grown up with the mind of a child. I'm kind of like a Peter Pan, and I've never really grown up, and I've never really matured, but I still help people, and I get people out of problems and all that. They had to hear all that kind of stuff before and then what they got was just, this insane kid who lives at home with his parents. And all the and the parents were equally nuts.
Yeah, yeah. When with Get a Life did you just feel the break or whatever it was, where it's clearly like, oh, we're making this thing and we're all the way over here with this, and we're going further away from where they want us to be?
It was right after the show was picked up. Because, Adam Resnick, who was my partner at Late Night, we did a lot of, like, stuff in the pilot that really was not Get a Life-ish. There was actually, I think, a little sincere moment with my father in the pilot, and it was all like, to get the show sort of picked up.
Yeah.
And then once it was picked up, we did kind of do a bait and switch, I think, which, is never a good idea, and started kind of writing the show that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
The first show out of the gate was the male model show, and the network hated that show. Just hated it.
Yeah.
And we're just, besides themselves, just saying, what is this? What are you giving us? and we would give them the same arguments. Well, he's a Peter Pan. He's a kid. He hasn't grown up. He's still, it's like Big. It's, he's going to teach people things with his simplicity. And
that you clearly had that was not on the docket at all.
There wasn't any thought of that whatsoever. That would have been something we would have made fun of on the show. So it was right then. It was the first episode out of the gate that we knew the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
And it would have only been ratings that saved it, and they weren't great, and so the second season was hard because we kind of knew when they picked us up that they didn't really want us back.
Yeah.
And, so we knew we were only going to do like 9 shows, and by the 5th show in, I was just getting tired of getting dunked in a vat of chili or whatever it was, and and I would just start to get pretty lazy, and we'd end up just tearing my head off and kicking it down the street.
Yeah, well,
like that to finish the episodes.
And for what was the impetus behind the kind of the change with when you brought Brian Doyle Murray on?
Oh, well, that was clear. That was totally the network's note. They said if they wanted, that was a condition of them picking up the show. It was I had to be more responsible, and I had to move away from my parents' house. So we said, okay, all right, he'll move away, and I moved out of my parents' garage and Brian Doyle Murray's garage.
Which is,
it was just, I mean, things like that. And when I look back on it, I'm sure they were just infuriated.
Yeah.
And they would give us notes, like, we want you to say, I like you, Dad, or something like that. And, so we would put, I like you, Dad, in, and, and then give him a line of just, all right, that's enough. You stink. Get out of my face. And, I know we did that. There was an episode, the submarine episode, where I got stuck in the shower, in a homemade submarine with my dad, and we start to run out of oxygen. And they really wanted a moment, like, where I hug him and tell him how much I'm going to miss him when we die. And I remember talking to them and saying, well, you understand they're in like in a bathtub. In a pretend submarine, and we're pretending that they're running out of oxygen. You actually want them to believe that and have a real, true moment. And they said, yeah. And so we wrote something that then, turned into another insult or something right afterwards.
Oh, I mean, that...
We're always addressing their notes and then taking them away.
Yeah. Well, that is...
So it wasn't a good relationship right from the start. But if we hadn't done that, I don't think the show would have, been as good as it was, and people wouldn't remember it the way they seem to these days.
Yeah. Look, I wish for you that the show had just been an unqualified success on your terms, but it's it was. But I mean, in terms of
concern, it was. The fact that it wasn't on is unfortunate. It didn't stay on is unfortunate.
Oh, no.
It was as good as I imagined that show ever to be, and it was the most fun I think I've ever had in my career.
Yeah.
Next, of course, to Eagleheart.
Of course. Which I meant to say that, of course, it was that, but I just meant I wish it clicked with everybody also.
Right.
But at the very least, at least you did this thing that still resonates. We're talking about it.
At the time, it didn't. And that's, I don't know, a lot of my stuff doesn't initially. I mean, Eagleheart seems to be, in a weird way, but, that may be the audience from Adult Swim and like yourself, people that were fans of Get a Life that are tuning into it. But, no, Get a Life was just, reviled. I mean, I remember, like, walking down Santa Monica Boulevard with, I think, Abby and Bridie probably. Bridie was just born, and just getting out of our car, walking down, and hearing some woman say, "Oh, there's that guy from that show you hate." And I was like sort of halfway proud because I got, recognized in front of my kids.
Yeah.
But also, and I'm sure Abby was like, what did she say? Nothing. She knows me from the show.
Did you have to go to upfronts and things like that, like network things?
Yeah, I did. And that was humiliating.
Who were you there with?
The first one I remember was with the group from with the Married with Children crowd.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think we were going to be their lead-in, and I remember, who's the wife on that? Was it
Katie Seagal?
Seagal, yeah. I remember kind of hearing her sort of mumble, "Get a life, what is that?" Like really mad that we were their new lead-in, and I can't blame her. I mean, it didn't help them much. But it was them and Living Color also.
Yeah, and Herman's Head.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Was that actually on the air when I was on the air?
I don't know. It's like Fox did have this stretch where I think somebody needs to go back and, I don't know if there's a book there, but there's definitely a long article in those sitcoms that were on Fox. Like, remember George C. Scott had a sitcom on Fox?
No. On Fox?
Yeah.
Well, I do was he?
He's the president or something. Yeah.
He was the president.
It was him and Conrad Bain.
Right. And was Conrad Bain the vice president or his secretary or something?
It was called Mr. President. I'm being told.
I remember that now. Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's like Fox they were all over the map.
But I think that's like what happens with all these networks that are, perceived as edgy and cool at first, but ultimately they don't want to be that. They want to be mainstream, and they want to be, broad. I mean, literally, they said to me when I went to Fox that, you know, they wanted a Cosby Show from me. They want, and you know, there were copies of Daddy's Boy on the table and stuff, and I was baffled right from the start that was what they were hoping they were going to get out of me, and you know, the truth is, though, I mean, nobody else would have put Get a Life on. They were edgy enough to put it on, but
yeah.
You know, so in that sense, I owe them for that. But it was never their cup of tea. They never,
yes.
And I knew, you know, there was this early on. We had, before we were on the air, even we had a meeting with this guy on the phone. Actually, he was on the phone, and he had sent over promos for Get a Life, and we all hated the promos. They were just, you know, they were all like, he had put them to, you know, fast motion and Keystone Cops music and like that, and they were just god awful, and so we were all on the phone talking to him, and I was leading the conversation, making, you know, fart noises constantly while he was talking, and he could hear us laughing, and you know, and you know, and I was just sort of making an idiot out of him, and you know, we hung up, and literally, I think it was 6 months later, he took over head of on air,
like,
and.
Hey.
You know, so I knew even at that point, you know, halfway through the first season.
You picked the wrong horse.
I saw him, and I said, you know, I always liked those promos.
Yeah.
I don't know why we had that reaction. I think we were just, you know, trying out different things.
Yeah. Remember when that guy was on the thing making those sounds? Like, who was
that
that
was
guy?
A horrible connection. I think, you know, I'm not sure. I think the Iraq War was starting back then or something. I think there was some...
Jason Wallner is telling me about a show called Whoops, which I'm remembering now from Fox, which was the post-apocalyptic show.
Oh, my God.
That was
that
on
around the same time also?
Let's see when
It must have been.
Yeah, Whoops was on from...
I remember Herman's Head, and I do remember that George C. Scott show, but that was not on when I was there, though.
September to December of '92 was Whoops.
So that was on after I left. That may have replaced me.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need this. We got Whoops in the can.
Oh, what was the other thing? Oh, Babes.
Babes, which was with the morbidly obese women.
Yeah, that was, and that was at the upfronts too. And I remember they showed like a clip that, you know, of the three of them getting in a bed, and the bed broke, and then the whole place like went crazy.
And that's when you just know the writing is on the wall. That, oh boy, we better. I'm not gonna. Like, there's that point when you're working in a thing and you decide whether you're going to make your office like a home, like kind of homey.
I never did.
You know,
never did.
Like,
and it wasn't to begin with. We were in this really crappy stage at Sunset Gower, and I had a really crappy office, but I did not. The second season, we were actually in a nice place, but the first season, I just was like, no, I'm not going to bring in candles and put up family photos and stuff like that.
Exactly. Just like, this kind of place I could hang out at, you know? Like, you know? Like,
right, come in off hours on Sunday and hang out in my office.
Well, those people are usually people running away from their families anyway.
I don't think I will ever do that again in my life. I did have a pad like that at late night, but I don't think I will ever do that again.
Yeah.
Because nothing I ever does or have done has lasted. So.
Well, I'm hoping that Eagleheart.
I hope it does too. I mean, it's you know, it's a different kind of show, and it's you know, I like that it's 15 minutes. You know, it seems to go by quick. It's kind of like a remote, you know, for that, you know, I used to do on Letterman, and except with the production value of like a feature. The fact that these guys are able to, you know, write beginnings, middles, and ends, and have the shows kind of wrap up and make semi-sense, you know, is great. I think, you know, it's really fun. Yeah,
and it does, like, the premise doesn't outstay its welcome then also.
Right.
Like, you're not
I think also, you know, we're sort of, the premise is just the framework of this show. You know, what I like about it is that we can do whatever we want on the show, and at least we're trying to do whatever we want on the show. And instead of doing like a Naked Gun or a Police Squad straight parody of, you know, a Walker Texas Ranger show, it's more like, okay, I've adopted a little bit of that look, and we have that feel of that kind of show, but then it's somewhat surreal, kind of like Get a Life was.
Yeah, it's surreal in a different way, where you're not going, you're not calling yourself Chrissy, or
right.
Or
well, yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like I am like just a matured Chris Peterson in this. It's kind of like the guy's like gone off and had some experiences, maybe on a boat, and has come back and is tough and stupid.
Yeah.
Instead of just silly and stupid, but he's still an idiot.
Yeah. And just for people who don't know, it's Eagleheart. It's this is Chris Elliott's new show. It's on Adult Swim on Thursday nights at midnight. And if you haven't watched it yet, you should watch this. This episode this week is really especially great. I've enjoyed everything, but this one really is. This is like
you've seen all of them, right? You've seen all of them.
I've seen it.
Jason showed you all of them.
I've seen so much of everything with Eagleheart that
You're sick of it.
I'm not sick of it. I just feel like I've seen 3 years worth of Eagleheart.
Right.
But look, I can watch. Hey, Jason can send me anything. I'll watch it. Because this is also written and directed by Jason Wallner. It's like a.
This is his baby this week.
It's like Orson Welles.
I know. Ugh, does he have that up on the card? Is it just written and directed by Jason Wallner?
I think it says from the mind of.
Card. Ugh.
You know, from the mind
baby.
of. Yeah.
I can't believe it. What a baby.
Yeah. Now, you've also written a couple books after Daddy's Boy, which over the last 10 years, was that? When did...
Yeah, I wrote them a couple of years ago, actually. I didn't write a lot, you know, after Daddy's Boy for obvious reasons. And then I wrote Shroud of the Thwacker and Into Hot Air. Neither one of them, you know, were particular hits, but you know, Into Shroud of the Thwacker was kind of a parody of like you know, time travel books, like you know, Jack Finney sort of Time and Again type things, and also The Alienist, that book, and then Into Thin Air was sort of kind of a John Krakauer, you know, sort of book with me climbing Mount Everest with a bunch of celebrities.
Yeah, but you managed to get your voice into the...
Yeah, I mean, that actually, for me, you know, getting older, it was like sort of fun to kind of write, you know, that kind of Chris Peterson guy again, you know, in a book, because he, you know, I could do it in a book, but I can't do it in real life on television anymore because it looks obnoxious. But yeah, it was fun to get that, to do it in book form. I think I may work on another one.
I love it. I love it all. Is this a good call, Mike? Because I'm telling you, we had Martin Short was on about a year ago, and
he's amazing. He's like I'm such a huge Martin Short fan.
Yeah, what a nice guy.
Yeah, he's just a real sweet guy too.
Only eclipsed by you. I'm gonna say.
No, he's much nicer than me.
But then this guy called. This is what this guy literally said to Martin Short. Like, I'm taking calls now. People finally getting to talk to this guy. When are you ever going to talk to this guy?
Right.
This one guy calls up. He goes, "Hey, you know that one movie you did with Kevin Bacon?" And he's like, "Yeah, The Big Picture." He's like, yeah, I couldn't remember. What was the name of that one again? It's like, like that was actually calling him, asking, and he was serious. He was like, "What was the name of that movie?"
Well, he wanted to get that information, and who better to ask than Martin Short?
Well, if only there was a means like that we could learn these things, like some sort of, like, if there were machines in our houses that kind of connected to this larger, the worldwide thing.
The man doesn't trust them, so he just wanted, maybe he looked it up and he wanted to verify it.
Yeah.
He just wanted to see if Martin Short knew.
You know what?
I think you're being hard on the guy. But
that's a fair point, Chris. This is a good call, Mike. All right, let's see. FMU, you're on the air with Chris Elliott.
Oh, hi, this is Mary in Brooklyn.
Hi.
Hi, I just had to call in because...
Can you hear this woman?
You kept saying it's all dudes, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not a dude, and I love Chris Elliott. So I wanted to first say just thank you for Get a Life, because I have such warm memories of watching it when I was little, and just...
Oh, that's really nice.
I would watch it with my mom, and we would just laugh. And I haven't revisited it as an adult just because I like to preserve that memory. But I wanted to ask,
if you saw it again,
what kind of stuff
I don't know,
were you into when you were younger, like comedy stuff that kind of formed your taste?
I guess when I was younger, I watched a lot of old movies. Actually, I watched a lot of like Marx Brothers and W.C. Fields and Laurel and Hardy, and because my dad sort of loved that stuff, so he turned me on to that kind of stuff, and surprisingly, I was not that into my dad's humor, other than because he was my dad. I mean, I laughed at it, and it made me laugh, but I think I was more like a Marx Brothers guy, and I think I kind of grew out of them as I got older. But when I was a kid, I used to go to the dollar theaters whenever they had festivals for those guys and stuff like that. So.
Cool.
That was the early stuff, and then of course, like Saturday Night Live was, a big influence, and Bill Murray and that whole group.
All right, madam.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for remembering Get a Life, and man, it means a lot.
Enough for her. She cut you off. I was not crazy about that.
I was in the middle of thanking her.
Yes, but you were also in the middle of saying earlier that you were if she went back and revisited Get a Life.
Oh yeah. Now I was talking, and then was she just talking over me, or was I not on the air?
No, that's how these people are. That's how these people are, Chris.
Jeez.
I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
It's a rough group.
You've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, it's like being dropped in a pig pen every week.
You must be getting paid a lot for it, though.
I do this for free.
Oh, well, that's really stupid.
Now, you actually, you mentioned Saturday Night Live. It's like you did that one crazy year of Saturday Night Live.
I did it 1 year. One year.
It was one of those transitional years.
I guess that's what they call it. It was a terrible year for me. I mean, I was not good on the show, and it was a real big disappointment to me. I felt like I had really hit rock bottom, and all my fault. I mean, when I was younger, I had a chance to go there when I was at late night, and I went and I auditioned, and I got offered, a spot, and I didn't take it because, like I was saying before, Dave was giving me his, this spotlight every week, and also because I felt kind of guilty about leaving. But when I finally did go, I had been out in L.A. Cabin Boy had opened and not done well, and I wanted to come back to New York City, and I thought, okay, I'll do it now. And it had always been this nagging thing in the back of my head that I should do SNL. And everybody, from the time I started on late night, people were telling me, oh, SNL is the place for you. You need to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always, thought I should and wanted to. And then when I went, I had already kind of established myself as this, non-performer, this guy who makes fun of himself as he performs, and this Chris Elliott character that, I couldn't do impersonation. Even when I did impersonations on late night, it was always me coming out dressed as Marlon Brando or me coming out dressed as Marv Albert, and you can't really do that at SNL. You really have to commit to those characters and all that. It wasn't right for me.
Yeah, that's what they want.
At that point. Yeah, and it should be your first job out of the gate, or one of your first jobs. Mm-hmm. I had sort of, done a lot, before I went there, and so I wasn't hungry to get airtime, but you should be.
Yeah.
I honestly had a hard time staying up that late.
Yeah. Now, when they talk about those Tuesday night things, those crazy Tuesday nights,
the writing night, yeah.
No,
they're horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible, and you know, Abby goes through it, and I know what she's going through there, and you know, it's where everybody is there all night writing for the table read the next day, and I never stayed. I don't know. I guess I didn't get the memo because I would go home like around 11. I'd say goodnight to everybody and go. And I thought, well, that's, you know, I'm putting in a good amount of time here. I'm staying till 11.
Yeah. What do people want from me?
Yeah, exactly. And but no, Abby's there all night, and they all are, and you know, and then the next day, you know, if there's too much stuff, you know, a piece that you've written that you worked 3 hours on at 3 a.m. can be pulled because there's too many pieces for the table read and all that. So it's what people, I don't think, realize completely about SNL. Your audience does because they know about comedy and stuff, but the general public I don't think they understand that for the cast there, it's a constant audition all through the week until the actual show. You know, it's Monday, it's coming up with something funny to say to the host, you know, and pitch meeting. Tuesday, it's writing all night and trying to get a writer interested in, if you're a performer there, interested in what you want to do and excited by it. Wednesday, it's a table read, and you know, you have to perform at the table for your fellow office mates. And it's you know, it's not unnatural for some people not to necessarily want to laugh at a piece if their piece is coming up next.
Yeah.
So it's you know, that's a really tense day. And then I guess Thursday, you know, then the pieces are picked. So Thursday it's a little more relaxed, and then Friday you're rehearsing, and then Saturday you have dress rehearsal. You know, and if that doesn't go there, your piece gets cut. And I remember it being so intense until 11:30 Saturday night, and then it was just really easy and fun. The rest of the week I hated. Yeah. But that you know, that one, you know, at 11:30 till 1, I was fine. I was like, oh, this is great. Even dress rehearsal was intense. It was too tense for me. But the actual show, the live show, felt fine.
Sure. Yeah. Well, but it was you know, when you look at this, Mr. Chris Elliott, you have built this thing that has kept going, and you were saying it earlier, that it just felt like you were doing a joke on show business in a way.
Definitely.
You know, that you felt like, then does it still feel like that sometimes? Like it's
well,
this thing.
Doesn't it feel like that to you? I think everybody who's in it sort of feels like they're, you know, playing a trick on everybody to a degree. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it more because that was the thing. I mean, the idea was that, you know, I'm still amazed, you know, that I'm actually, like, you're interested in talking to me on there. And I'm not being modest here. I'm just saying I was raised in this sort of anti-showbiz family to begin with. My dad, you know, we're pretty cynical with what we saw on television and all that. And then the first job I had was working for Dave, and that was at a place that, you know, our business was making fun of show business. And still working in it. But I was so young, I didn't realize, you know, once you get out of there, you know, you do have to kind of take it seriously, you know, if it's going to be your career. And I didn't for a few years, you know, after Get a Life, because I just sort of thought, you know, you know, that everybody has a sense of humor about themselves. Everybody knows what they're doing is 90% crap, and you know, and but people don't feel that way. People are pretty, you know, serious about what they do and all that. And I guess I've learned to be that way a little bit more, or take myself a little more seriously.
Well, you hope that the business just changes enough, because the people who are young become older at a point, and
right.
If they're interested in certain things, you hope that at least some of them end up in control of parts of the business.
But it's like Nixon. It's like that movie Nixon. It's like, you know, it's you know, it's the monster. It's like it's like, isn't that what he calls, like, you know, being the president or something, or politics? You know.
Yeah.
When he's talking to the kids at Lincoln Memorial. But it's Yeah, because I know I've gone into meetings with people that are like you, that are huge fans of mine, and will go on and on about Get a Life, what a great show that was, how much it influenced them, how much they loved it, and all that. And then in the next breath, they'll say, but we don't want you to do that. So I think even though these people find themselves in these positions, you know, they're sort of bound by the rules of the game still. And hopefully that's, you know, not creeping into, you know, the cable world yet. But
sure,
it will.
You'd hope that it would at least be a kind of thing where there's enough pieces of pie to go around, because it's divided up. It's not divided by 3 channels anymore.
Right.
It's, you know, it's divided by 80 channels now. Yeah. Everybody could have their thing on their terms. Right.
And I mean, but I think, you know, I think it will creep in.
Well,
my pessimistic view.
Look, I hope you're dead by then.
Oh, look.
Well, no, I don't mean to come out that way.
I'm on my way out right now, pal. No. This little interview is my swan song.
No.
The business.
Yeah. Let me just... is this a good call, Mike? Is this a good call? Okay, this better be good. FMU, you're on the air.
Hi, Tom. This is Christina calling from Brooklyn. How are you?
I'm doing okay. This is a good caller. How are you tonight, madam?
I'm great. How are you, Mr. Chris Elliott?
I'm doing well, Christina. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
great,
very upset. The one time I go out to dinner on a Tuesday night, I come home and you're on the show. I want to go back in time and start the show from the beginning. I am a really big fan.
When did you start? When did you start listening? What time?
About 15 minutes ago.
You really didn't miss anything.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's good. I'm the big fan, obviously, and
thank you.
Still, some of my favorite things ever are, number 1, is Marlon Brando, and number 2, you as Morton Downey Jr.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
So great.
I love those. But I do have a question for you. I wanted to know, how did you get Russ Tamblyn to appear in Cabin Boy?
Well, I'm not sure he had been working a lot at the time, and I believe he came in and auditioned.
You're kidding?
For it. No. You know, I wasn't in the audition, so I don't know if they made him lie down on his stomach on the ground and pretend to be swimming. But and he's a really sweet guy too, really sweet man. And you know, I think there were a couple of people, you know, that did the movie for ulterior motives, and you know, I'm sure for him it was at the time a paycheck. I don't think he was doing it because he thought it was necessarily this funny thing. Alfred Molina, who was in the movie, I think was just trying to get. I think he was just trying to get his green card because he and I'm not. I think he thought he was like going to be a different role. And he thought that he ended up being, and he actually wanted his name off it, which was fine.
That's a good feeling, right?
Yeah,
that this guy who was doing the movie to get his green card now is asking he would prefer not to get his green card.
I was in a wardrobe fitting with him, and I remember him saying to the costume lady, I could hear him in the other side of the room saying, well, I think the principal would wear his suit more cut in the back like this. I just thought to myself, principal, you're not the principal. That's a totally different actor.
Well.
So, but Russ Tamblyn, I don't, you know, he's I've seen him a couple of times since then, and we talk about it and stuff. But I think, you know, he just came in and it was a job, you know.
Well, thank you for the call, Christina.
Good night.
Good night, Christina.
See, there was a good call. Good job on that one, Mike.
Christina's a good caller.
Yeah. Now, when you, because I was going to ask you about, like Cabin Boy. Everybody loves Cabin Boy. David Letterman did the one scene in Cabin Boy. Is it true that he did that so that he could host the Oscars? Or is that just some sort of apocryphal story?
I think that's just a story.
Yeah, that you need to host you need to be in a movie to.
Is that true? That's not true, is it? That you have to be in a movie to actually host? I heard that too, but I don't think so. That certainly was not his reason for doing it. Mm-hmm. But no, he had been in my cable specials, and he had always, you know, he wrote like a blurb for Daddy's Boy. I think he wrote the intro to Daddy's Boy. And he was always trying to help me and Adam Resnick out. You know, he was always doing stuff like that. And I think this was one of those things where I think he just thought it was really cool that, you know, that I was actually doing a movie and that Adam was directing it. And so he came out and he was in it. And it was funny because he was kind of nervous about it too. You know, he was sort of, I remember him asking, you know, if he should do like an old man character. And we were saying, no, don't do that. Just be yourself. You know, just do your own. I've always sort of wondered, well, what would his old man character have been?
Well, the one thing is that David Letterman always had. There was that time when he had signed a movie deal.
Yeah.
And there was that one script that you always heard about.
Right.
That it was like going to be like North by Northwest or something.
Right.
Like with him
I
in
think
it.
Dave would be great actually doing that kind of stuff too, or would have been too. You know, I mean, I think it's just hard for him to take himself seriously doing that kind of stuff too. You know, as it is for me. You know, and I mean, you've seen his audition for Airplane, that infamous piece of.
I never saw that.
Footage. Oh, it's pretty funny.
Oh.
He's not half bad, but it's and those guys brought it on. The Zucker brothers brought it on when they were on late night, early on late night. Brought on, you know. Now let's watch your screen test if you don't mind. And it was him in the hospital bed, you know, doing sort of the glass of water gag that that he can't drink out of, and. But it wasn't half bad. I mean, and actually, Dave would have been great in that movie. So I think he could have done that stuff.
Yeah, but I guess there's that point where if you're playing yourself to such a degree that you are like, I can't step outside of this. And all of a sudden,
and even if he could, who would want him to? I mean, what he does is so great. And honestly, I like Greg Kinnear a lot. I still have kind of a hard time watching him every now and then. I'm like, well, wait, no, I think of you in a different way. But he's really good. Yeah. You know, what he does too. So, I don't know. I do kind of believe, like, there's certain, like, comedians that I do totally buy as actors. And, Bill Murray is one, and I believe him. I totally believe Robin Williams. You know, but there are there's actual actors who I just don't believe, who I just like, oh no, I'm watching so and so, you know, I'm character here. Yes. But you know, Dave could have done stuff like that. He also could have done like a sort of private part sort of movie, you know, that kind of thing too. But. I remember seeing 3 Men and a Baby early on, the French version of it, and going into him and saying, hey, there's actually, because he was looking for movie stuff, and saying, you know, that it would be funny for him, me, and Paul to do 3 Men and a Baby. And he said, well, I'll go check it out or something, and I think that's about as far as that conversation went. Yeah. For that that particular project. You know, I just threw it out there.
Well, just think about where everyone's life would be. I'm not even talking about just your life or his life. Like, I think the world might be a different place if he had watched that movie that day and been like, you know, let's do this. Let's just do this.
Well, I mean, what I was thinking was not, you know, what you know, the Tom Selleck movie that they made afterwards. I was thinking we would, you know, sort of do a parody of it while we were doing it. Yeah. But no, I don't. That didn't go very far. But
well, let me say this to you, Chris Elliott. I'm not going to take any more of your time. You, sir. Is it Mike? Is this a good call? This final call? It's fine. We'll take one more call for the legendary Chris Elliott, who's on the phone with us. WFMU, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Tom. How's it going?
This is not a good. What are you doing to me? This guy is like. I hope you didn't even hear any of that.
I heard sort of a.
You know what that is? This
is like a Punch and Judy voice.
There's a kid who calls, who does this puppet thing. I think it's like that movie Magic, like where he's not sure where the puppet stops now. Like where he stops and the puppet starts. And he calls.
He's a regular guy, a regular caller.
Yeah, he calls and I do you not know the definition of top notch, Mike?
I thought he would be good.
Oh, no, it's like I apologize.
No, that was Mike's doing. It's not your doing.
And you know the fact that you're just saying that was Mike's doing now, he's going to sit home listening to that like it'd be like the conversation.
On his reel.
Yeah. It'd be like Gene Hackman in the conversation just playing the same thing over and over again. That was Mike's doing. That was Mike's doing. That was Mike's doing. So but
So are you still friends with Andy Breckman?
yes, we worked together for a long time, but I mean I don't see him like I used to, but I am still friends with him.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Well, say hi to him for me.
Oh, I will. Now you, just to reiterate for everybody out there, you're going to put your TV on Adult Swim, which is part of the Cartoon Network, on Thursday nights at midnight. You can watch Eagleheart, starring Chris Elliott. And you, sir, I want to just thank you again for coming on. This could not have been a bigger honor for me.
Thank you so much for having me. You're amazing, and I know you said that you and your buddy John, sort of bonded over Get a Life, and that really does mean a lot to me. So I really, 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 really appreciate it.
Yes, I certainly would not be in the profession I'm in if it was not for you being a prime influence on me through my whole life.
Well, that means the world to me. Thank you.
Well, and again,
keep plugging away. You're going to come up aces.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, and you take care.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye. See that, Mike? See what I just did? Just drop that on everybody's head. Boom, Chris Elliott for an hour. Boom. This guy's doing it. I'm doing it. Everybody's doing it. Put that puppet through. Oh, unbelievable. It's the biggest insult. That might have been unforgivable. No, I know you, and I'm checking on Twitter. I know you have a soft spot in your heart for me in reality, but seriously, ouch. What? I'm asking. No, you know what, though? I apologize to you, Wally Wackerman. Wally Wackerman, I apologize to you. You're right. That was out of control. I should not have hung up on you that way. You know why? I never should have been put in the position to have hung up on you that way. Mike should have said, not this week, Wally. Tom's trying to do a first-class show this week. Not trying to do a show with novelties. Not trying to do a show with the usual cast of characters. Trying to do a first-class show. That's on you, Mike, not on Wally. Wally, I apologize. If you call back now, I'll apologize to you.